Hi everyone, welcome to my talk on PM72. I'm really happy that you all joined me today to learn a little bit more about prioritization and how you can apply a different prioritization techniques in your projects and ultimately get more done. Prioritization is one of the key tasks in project management, but more than often the things go a wrong way, especially when many people are involved in the prioritization process. So before I start, let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Nikki, co-founder at Jexo, where I'm taking care of everything product related. I'm working with a software for about 9 years. I started as a QA and then grew myself into application support lead for a company that was developing AI project management tools. And then I co-founded Jexo and started taking care of the product as a product manager and designer, and I also started leading the team. So what we'll be going through in this talk, I will give you a quick introduction to the prioritization. I will show you some of the best methods for project prioritization you can use that are already industry standard and they're ready for you to pick up. But I will also show you how you can create your own prioritization method with something that is called weighted scoring. With this method, you can basically identify the key factors that are most important for your project and you can use them for prioritization. And in the end, I'll also show you how you can apply all this and use it in Jira. But before we start, I just wanted to quickly introduce you to Jexo. Jexo is a silver Atlassian marketplace partner that helps teams improve the way they deliver work with our Jira planning apps. We have a portfolio of planning apps, and our marketplace is covering topics like road mapping, prioritization, reporting, and risk management. But now let's go back to the presentation itself. One big problem that many of us have while managing projects or managing our work really is not knowing what to work on next. What projects or what tasks are bringing the most value to the customer. It is also really hard to descope something. If you have a long backlog of items requested from different clients or stakeholders, how do you actually decide on what to work on next? A big problem is that not many of us actually know how to prioritize. And when working with the teams and stakeholders, while prioritizing without introducing trade-offs, you might end up with everything being important. And when everything is important, then nothing really is. To fix our prioritization process, you can use prioritization methods. Any of the quantitative prioritization methods that you can use are very simple, with the same principles in core. They all help you assess some kind of priority score to help you decide on your priorities. So when you're thinking of the prioritization method for your project, you need to think of key factors that are important to your particular project or whatever you are trying to prioritize. For example, it can be effort, impact, costs, risks, and so on. Then you need to find out how to calculate the priority score correctly so it makes sense. And then once you have this basis, you can go ahead and you can start prioritizing your backlog. And in the end, once you finish the prioritization itself, you can finally identify the top priorities by looking at the ones with the highest priority score. Usually the higher the priority score in these methods, the more important the task is, but you can also use something that is called prioritization matrix, which is basically a matrix when on x-axis and y-axis you plot one of the factors, and then you can have a look visually on these priorities and, for example, identify the ones with the highest impact and lowest effort, which are usually the ones that you should be working on first. But how do you know what prioritization method to use? There are many quantitative methods, but I did split them into two different types. One type is a predefined prioritization methods. These are really good because they have been already used in many projects in many companies. They are reliable and they're usually simpler as they are more generic, which makes them really good one to start with actually. If you are new to prioritization and you want to just quickly get off the ground and running, and you don't want to think about creating prioritization method too much, you can start with them. On the other hand, there is an option to create your own prioritization method using a technique called weighted scoring. So you basically identify the factors that are most important for your project, and you also rank their importance. You basically weight them. That's where the name comes from. This method is a bit more advanced. You need to spend a little bit of time preparing it in order to be able to use it. But I created a few examples of the key factors that you can use that will really help you speed up the creation process of this method. I think it's really good that this method is customized, so it's very specific to your project and you can adjust it to your own needs, which makes it actually accurate for your own project prioritization as well. So let me talk first a little bit about the predefined prioritization methods. There are many of them, but I picked up top 3 relevant specifically for project management. If you are interested about more methods, we created a workbook that is full of them and you can download it for free. So I actually added the link in the end of this presentation. So just stay to the end and you can download the book. So this is an IUE prioritization method, and it looks at 3 key factors, which are impact, urgency, and ease. Calculation of the prioritization score itself is quite simple. You just multiply all these 3 metrics and you get the priority score. And to assess your backlog, you assign the number from 1 to 5, where 1 is worst and 5 is the best for each of these factors. This prioritization method is also popular because you can combine it with using a priority matrix, or it's also called impact urgency matrix. As the name already suggests, you will be using impact metric and urgency metric, and you plug these 2 on a chart, and then you can identify the quadrants like do now, do next, do never, and do last. This is really helpful, and it brings you kind of like a different dimension into your prioritization process as well. So you're not looking on the priority score only, which is quite flat. The next method we are going to be looking at is GUT method. With this one, you're using factors like gravity, urgency, and tendency. When you're looking at the gravity, you are actually assessing what are the effects of these tasks or project, if it's serious or it's not serious. Then when you're looking at the urgency, you're assessing if the task can wait or does it need to be done right now. And with the tendency, you're asking if it gets worse fast or maybe in the short term, mid-term, slow or never. And the last method I want to talk about is the weighted shortest job first, which is the method usually used in a scaled agile or safe. It helps you calculate and understand what is the level of the financial impact of not finishing the tasks or implementing the solution sooner than later. So if you are working in a bigger organization, it's very likely that you already saw this method in use. Okay, so that was enough about predefined prioritization methods. Now let's have a look on creating your own priority scoring with weighted scoring method. There are 4 steps for you to do in order to create your own method and use it. So the first one is to identify the core factors that are typical for your project. Then you need to rank your core factors to give them importance in your scoring formula. You need to basically weight them. And after you do that, you can create your prioritization formula. And it's really simple. I will show you how to do that. A few people are struggling with that, but it's really simple if you know the method. And finally, you can go and introduce the prioritization method to your team and start prioritizing your backlog. Usually many people, when they think of creating their own prioritization method, they struggle with identifying the core factors. So that's why I looked at a different prioritization methods used in variety of projects, and I collected the commonly appearing factors. I also structured these into a bucket depending on a theme. So one of the buckets is effort and time. Then there is a team bucket, importance and impact bucket. So when you're creating your prioritization method, you just come in and pick up the factors from these buckets and then add them to your formula. So under the effort and time bucket, you can find the factors like, for example, story points, effort, ease, but there is also a timelessness or tendency, where you are assessing if the task is important in a long term or it's a short-term priority. There are also metrics to assess the dependencies, time sensitivity, or cross-team collaboration. So usually if you are collaborating on a project with other teams, then the things might get slowed down by the cross-project dependencies because they're a little bit more difficult to manage. So it's good to have that as a metric sometimes. The next bucket is a team bucket. Here you can find factors like, for example, employee satisfaction or team health. You're assessing if the task contributes to your team health or if your team is going to be motivated enough to complete this task. A good example is, for example, maintenance tasks as opposed to a really exciting new project. There is also competency and skills that are very interesting factors to consider. So you can be asking how skilled is your team? Do you have a mature team, or is it full of juniors? Is there someone senior available that can help deliver the task? And efficiency is quite a nice factor too. You're basically looking at if your team can be more efficient after delivering this task. So a good example is, for example, deciding to automate some kind of workflow. And the last one is confidence. So here you're just asking how confident is your team that they're going to be able to deliver this task that they estimated. And the next bucket is importance. So many companies are actually struggling with managing their stakeholders in their prioritization process. So creating different importance metric for your stakeholders from different departments might actually be a good idea because you involve them in the prioritization process and you basically assure them that you are counting with their vote as well. So you can have a stakeholders from, for example, sales, tech, product, legal, and so on. You can also look at your priorities from a little bit different perspective by assessing its if it's necessary. So, for example, you can determine if it's a technical necessity or if it's a legal requirement and so on. So one good example of a legal requirement is, for example, GDPR, which you really cannot function without if you're developing software. And the last bucket that I have here is the impact one. So here you can have a look at how your vision is impacted, if there are any risks, or if the item aligns to your team or company goal. If it, for example, increases the sales, or if you want to have a look on different factors, you can look at if it increases the customer satisfaction, or if it contributes to good internal or external impact. Maybe sometimes you might be considering also impact on the brand, or let's say risk potential, or if it introduces any new risks. So these are some really good factors to consider and the ones that you can be looking at. So when it comes to creating the scoring itself, it's also quite simple. So basically all you need to do is to identify the factors and give them a weight. So weight can be usually a number from 1 to 9, and the higher the number, the more important the factor is and more weight it has in your scoring formula as well. So once you have that, you need to multiply weight with each factor and then sum them up. And because this number is quite large, if you have a lot of factors in your formula, what you can do is to divide the sum up by a sum of all weights, and that's it. So let me show you an example so you can imagine that a little bit better. So let's say that I'm working on this project where my team is quite new. We didn't work together before and we have a mix of skill set in the team, but majority of our team members are junior. We do have a senior person in the team, but there is a possibility that we won't have enough capacity or skill set to deliver a certain tasks. So that's why I basically picked these metrics specifically for this project. It's usually good to pick either ease or effort metric for your prioritization, so you're considering how long or how difficult it will be to deliver something. Because we are a new team, I also added cross-project collaboration and risk potential to make sure that we identify the tasks that need cross-team collaboration upfront. The next, I need to add the weight to each of these factors, which will represent their importance. You can choose numbers from 1 to 9 to make it a little bit easier. The higher the number, the more important the factor is. And once we have all of this, you can go and create the scoring formula. So let's do that next. So basically what we do is we summarize all factors and we make sure to multiply each factor by its weight as well. And then we divide its sum by sum of all the weights, which is 16 in this case. And that's it. So now you can go and you can use these factors and scoring formula to prioritize your projects. When assessing the priorities, assign the number from 1 to 5 to each of the factors. And the higher the number, the better. You can use any tool that you would like, for example Excel, but if you would like to prioritize in Jira, you might be interested in our app Foxly. Foxly is a Jira app that helps you create and standardize your prioritization methods and prioritize your issues in Jira directly where the work happens. So Foxly comes with predefined industry standard prioritization methods, but it also allows you to create your own methods and customize them, like the one that I showed you earlier. So you can use the different styles for your metrics or factors, like for example star rating or labels, so it's much easier for everyone to actually go and prioritize the tasks themselves. And it allows you to create your own scoring formula too. Once you set up your prioritization method, you can prioritize your issues in this interactive table. And once you assign all metrics to the issue, the priority score is automatically calculated. You can order your backlog by a priority from highest to lowest to see the most important items on the top. And to get another dimension to your prioritization, you can also use the priority matrix view. So here you can choose what metrics you would like to see on X and Y axis to create your own quadrants and views, which gives you quite a bit of flexibility from the data visualization perspective. There is also a table under the chart where you can see the actual Jira issues and you can open them in Jira. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Do download the prioritization ebook. It's completely free and it has 15 prioritization methods that you can go and use in your projects. But there is also a worksheet that you can download with all the factors that I described earlier in this presentation and the scoring formula as well, so you can go and create your own prioritization method for your project. And that's about it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you learned something new. If you would like to chat to me about prioritization, or you would like to know more about Foxly or our other Jira planning apps, stop by our Jexo booth in the after party and we can talk a little bit more. See you there.